Hey everyone, my name is Nicole Mucci and I blog over at the Multicultural Maven. Glad to be here with you all.
Hi.
Oh, you can go ahead and ask your question, Nicole.
Sorry. So my question is for Christina. Christina, I'm a big fan of your work, from Marvel to The Magicians. I mean, it's just been incredible. And I was just curious as to what kind of inspired the screenplay for Finding Ohana.
So, I grew up watching, 80s and 90s movies. I really loved The Goonies. The Goonies is at the heart of the inspiration nugget here. And a lot of that had to do with Keyquan, like between Indiana Jones, his character Short Round in Temple of Doom, and Data. Like, I saw myself represented in these adventures. So I really wanted to write something at the time that I wrote the script, the first draft. I wanted to write something that was fun, that younger me would have loved to see. And what younger me would have loved to see was essentially Goonies in Hawaii, full of, Asian American and Pacific Islander kids, just a bunch of datas running around an island looking for this treasure. And that was the real inspiration for this, that I just wanted something fun that I could identify with, that, had this existed 20, 30 years ago, it would have meant the world to me.
Robin?
Hi, I'm Robin Davis from momthemagnificent.com. My question was for Jude. What do you hope that people take away or learn about Hawaiian culture from this film?
Oh, I only pause because there's so much I want them to take away. I feel like just watching the film, you're going to organically take something away, not just, the appreciation of the beauty of the island, but the beautiful spirit of Hawaiian people. During our filming, we had a lot of Hawaiian crew members that really, like, not just what they brought to the work, but individually and personally as people, the spirit of aloha that they bring to everything is so prevalent and so powerful. And even if you're not Hawaiian, I feel like there's a lot of positive kindness and love and generosity, and definitely appreciation of family and the importance of culture. So I really hope viewers take that away. And also, the story is about a couple of Hawaiian kids who weren't really raised on the island or with too much Hawaiian culture. And what I'm really hoping viewers will think about at the end of the movie is, it's never too late for you to connect to to understand your identity and to connect to your heritage.
Okay, Tessa?
Hi, Tessa from mamasgeeky.com. And thank you guys for taking the time today. My family absolutely loved this movie. It made us want to go back to Hawaii so bad. We've been a few times, and when the world opens back up, we'll be going again. But my question is for Christina. Obviously, The Goonies is a huge, huge inspiration. I mean, you can watch 5 minutes and pull 10 references. So I want to know if there's an actual count to Easter eggs and references, because it has to be insane. And what's your favorite one?
So there isn't a count, because it was a collaborative effort in terms of like all these Easter eggs showing up. It's amazing because like there's a bunch of stuff in here that's like the Spanish reading. Peely being able to read Spanish actually came from two places. Like, I'm half Korean, and I grew up in Korea, and then I moved to the States when I was 18. But like, I remember a friend of mine who's half Korean, she grew up in Texas, and everybody assumed she spoke Spanish because they thought she was Mexican. And it, like, because when you're mixed, you can look like anything. So I remember I was just like, this is great, because not only would I believe that Peely would speak Spanish, it is a great nod to Goonies, where they have to read Spanish. There's like, there's a lot of fun stuff there. That keychain that Key has, that's the biting the teeth. Jude, that was like Jude, the props guy. Like, there's just a bunch of stuff that like all of us took it and kind of ran. So there are things that I wrote in the script, but then they took it further. So I don't have a count, but there's a ton in there because we all knew what we were doing.
Thank you.
Rachel?
Hi, my name is Rachel, and I'm from prettyandbabyfood.com. And My question is for Christina. I learned something from this movie. I had no idea what geocaching was before watching this movie. And so I wanted to know why geocaching and not just a regular old just treasure hunt.
So, one of the things that's interesting about this film is there's more representation in it than just cultural. When I was a kid, I was a tomboy who identified more with the male lead characters, like the precocious kid, who goes on an adventure. But that was rarely the female. So I just remember thinking, like, Peely is going to be young me. And young me, if geocaching had been a thing when I was a kid, young me would have done a lot of geocaching because I wanted more than anything to be like Indiana Jones or Link from Legend of Zelda. Like, I just wanted to go on adventures and discover treasures, So that was the inspiration behind that. Because like when I found out what geocaching was as an adult, I was like, I don't have time, unfortunately, to do this thing, but young me would have been a geocacher like nobody's business.
That's awesome. It has inspired my kids to want to do it now.
That's
So
awesome.
By the way, there are, I think, I don't know, something like 2,000 geocaches on Oahu Island, and anybody can geocache. And by the way, you can go online now and see the geocaches near your own house. So start close because it's all around you, and it's really for people who love to puzzle. A lot of these geocaches are quite mysterious and they have riddles, and they're so fun to do with kids. So I'm really glad, Rachel, that you're going to get into it. It's so fun.
awesome. Thank you. That sounds fantastic. I'm gonna tell my husband I have to go to Hawaii just to find those.
Okay, Christy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christy. I'm with the Cactus Chronicles. My son Austin is here too. We really love the movie. Jude, this is a question for you. There's a lot of scenes involving adventure with the kids. What were the more challenging scenes to film?
Hats off to these kids because, man, we put them through the ringer. It was really important to me that we did a lot of practical stunts. I mean, I love visual effects, and there's plenty of visual effects in our movie, but there's nothing as visceral as practical effects, and there's nothing as visceral as seeing your leads, your real actors, doing a lot of their own stunts. And so our kids were very brave, and so the waterfall scenes, the underwater scenes, that's them. I would say in general, because there was so much cave work and water work, they were wet all the time. So there wasn't one thing in particular that was like so difficult because they were all so brave and courageous and they were all up for the adventure. But it was the accumulation of being wet from the beginning of the day to the end of the day for multiple days that I think started to, wear on them a little bit. If you've ever tried to go to the bathroom with wet pants on and try to like peel your clothes off and then there's a little breeze and you have to put those wet clothes back on, I would say it's the accumulation of all of that work that started to become challenging.
Thank you.
You bet.
Angela.
Sorry. Christine, what inspired you to become a comic artist?
Oh, you're going real into my past. So I grew up in Asia reading manga. I don't know if you're a fan of manga.
Yeah, I have.
I grew up reading manga. And so when I got to college, I had just kind of a moment where I was like, what do I really want to do with my life? If I'm being very honest with myself, the thing I really want to do is comics. So I just put all of my energy into working in comics, and it was amazing. I ended up at Marvel. And it was, a fantastic 10 years of my life working in comics. To this day, comics are kind of my first love. So yeah, it was, I grew up reading them. And then at some point in time, I just decided that like, I really needed to do them. And on top of that, I think that like, if you really want to do comics, you're a storyteller. Like that's really what it comes down to. You really want to tell story. And like, I just couldn't deny that part of myself anymore.
Thank you.
You can do it too.
Okay, Tati.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us today. I'm Tati from Cool Mom School Tips. And Jude, congratulations on such a beautiful film. Our family really enjoyed it. lots of excitement, lots of adventure, and for me personally, a lot of rich cultural learning and curiosity arises. So for sure, Hawaii's on the bucket list, and being the first time that you're filming in Hawaii a movie, I was just curious if you integrated special Hawaiian rituals, blessings, or something of the sort for the movie itself.
Thank you for asking that. You know, we were very, very careful to respect Hawaiian culture. I mean, and by the way, even outside of Hawaii, my overall production ethos is to leave any space that you use better than when you found it. And that was very much aligned with everything that we did in Hawaii. And so, for example, we actually brought on a lot of local consultants, cultural consultants, tattoo consultants, script consultants, just to help us make sure that we were on point and always respectful and really doing justice and paying homage to Hawaiian values and culture. We also had a Lopaka Kapanui. He was sort of, he's a big kahuna, and he was sort of everywhere we went, he would go there and actually do a blessing. And on the days that he couldn't do a blessing for whatever new location, we actually found somebody like our second AD, her daughter actually knows how to do blessings. So we brought her daughter to come and do a blessing. And the whole point of this was to really, with heart and soul, to have appreciation and gratitude for everything that we were doing there, and to make sure that we weren't just taking and that we were giving back. And I have to throw it over to Christina. Christina, I hope it's okay that I mentioned this, but Christina had the wonderful idea of us contributing and creating a scholarship. So Christina, if you wouldn't mind talking about that briefly.
Yeah, we created a scholarship at the University of Hawaii for, it's a creative writing scholarship. I wrote this script from a very personal place, but I'm Korean, and I was really pleased when Jude and I started working together on this, that both of us wanted to make sure we got the cultural portion of it correct, because I know when I see Korean culture done incorrectly, I see it. And my intention with the script was never to be disrespectful. So like after we sold the script and we went to at lengths to like make sure the culture was done correctly, I thought to myself, like, the best thing that I could do with this gift is to give back and make, give possibilities to kids who want to go to school in Hawaii. Like, scholarships make it easier for you to chase your dreams because it takes some of the financial burden off of things. So Jude and I created a scholarship at University of Hawaii for local kids who graduate from high school in Hawaii. And it's, it goes into perpetuity. So we're hoping that it's a longer lasting contribution to Hawaii that we made.
And just to add one more thing, 5 years ago, I did a DNA test and I found out that I was part Polynesian. That was a huge surprise to me. I was raised Chinese American. And so to find out that I was all of a sudden part Polynesian, well, what did that mean to me? And so in my own way, I've been exploring and trying to understand and trying to connect to that Asian Pacific Islander, DNA that I wanted to be connected to. And so that was also a big part of why I wanted to direct this movie, is because the leads, Pili and Ioane, in their own way are trying to discover their own connection to Hawaiian culture. And so it in some ways, not only did I get to go make this awesome movie and explore these stories, but it was actually really personal for me as well.
Nicole?
I just want to thank you, ladies, because you're both women of color, and this is like girl power, right? the whole film, and it's great to see. And Jude, this question is for you. You have done so much besides directing Finding Ohana. I love Fresh Off the Boat, by the way. And I am curious as to what kind of led you to want to direct the film? How did it come about?
I cannot believe my incredible good luck. I'm actually fairly new to episodic directing. I've directed for 20 years of my career, but it was mostly in competition game shows and documentaries. And I tried for years to break into scripted directing. And then when I did about 5 years ago, like it's like the floodgates opened. I was very fortunate to get a lot of opportunities very quickly. And so my agent at CAA was like, wow, now that you've sort of conquered TV, do you want to direct movies? I'm like, absolutely. And he said, what kind of movies do you want to direct? I said, action, adventure, comedy, and it's absolute icing if they're people of color and they're female leads. And he was like, I think I have just the script for you. And literally the next day, he sent me Christina's script. And so, I mean, this movie checks all the boxes for me. And I got to work with Christina, who had such a strong vision and such a strong voice and a great sense of humor. And so, yeah, this movie really, as my feature directing debut, had everything that I could have possibly wanted.
Thank you, ladies. We love the film.
Thank you.
Okay, Robin.
So I'd love to say thank you to both of you ladies just for bringing such a wonderful family-friendly movie into our home and teaching my family a lot more about Hawaiian culture. We do a lot of theme nights in our house, so Hawaiian is up next. Both of my kids are like, we got to make spam and eggs and spam fried rice. So we'll be doing that this weekend. But my question is for Christina. Seeing your baby from paper to screen, did you have a favorite moment that you got to see brought to life?
Okay, so there, when you write a script, it goes through a lot of iterations. There are several things that change. There were two things that, interestingly enough, did not change in the script, and both of them are with Peely and Casper. The first time is when Peely hits Casper and is like, I'm not gonna apologize. Oh no, I'm blanking on my own line. I'm too modern. That's not correct. But that moment where she hits him, just because it like defines her as a female character, she's too progressive. That's it. I haven't had coffee yet. I'm sorry. She goes, I'm too progressive. And then the other scene that I love is like when they break onto Kualoa Ranch, get caught, and she's just like, people here, why didn't you tell me? We could have just walked out. And he's just like, you were having so much fun, I didn't want to get in the way. So like, I love those two moments because I think that like, for me, that captures kind of like those two characters and the kind of characters that I fell in love with when I was a kid. So yeah, I feel like I tapped into my little 90s adventure kid right in those two moments. And I'm glad that like they survived from draft one to like the final version of the movie.
Christina, I swear you were going to say that one of your favorite moments was when Casper and Peely stand in front of the cave opening and that big horrible smell comes out and he goes, what's that smell? And she's like, it's the butthole from hell. I thought for sure you would say that was going to be your favorite.
So Jude thinks that's my favorite because I fought for that. Like I was like, butthole needs to be in this script. But a lot of that just is because like part of the entertainment for me of Goonies was that kids were using adult language, and I just remember being like, they have to, when you're a kid, sometimes you say things that you're just like, I'm old enough to use this. So yeah, that whole hell was great.
There were definitely a couple moments where my daughter looked at me like, is that okay for me to laugh at, Mom?
Wonderful.